Hey, legend. In today's episode, we're talking to Mitch Aguiar. He's a 10-year Navy SEAL veteran. He's a professional MMA fighter and an entrepreneur. He has massive supplements and violent hippie as his apparel line. By the time he left the Navy in 2018, he was a 10 times champion in mixed martial arts and was ranked number one in the East Coast in 170 and 185 pound divisions, which is wild. This episode was off to a little bit of a slow start just as we got to know each other, but he really opened up about his time in the military over in Afghanistan and his views, opinions, and experiences of the industrial military complex. It was a really, really beautiful episode. This guy was super present, shared a lot of stuff, and really, it's hard for me to explain the what you're going to get out of this episode, besides some really good stories, but also perspective on life of how to continue through life. And I think the stories are what came through here. He's just really honest and just really shared a lot about his experiences and where he's been, where he's headed, and his bumps up and down along the road. So I hope you enjoy it. It was a really impactful episode for me. I left really reevaluating my manhood and what I'm doing in my life and how I'm getting after everything and what I can do more. So I hope it impacts you in the same way that it impacted me. And it's a bit of a longer one, so buckle up. Look forward to some good stories, and we'll see you on the inside. Thanks, Mitch. I really appreciate your time and looking forward to jumping into it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And something that I'd love to jump in. I've listened to a bunch of your stuff, and you have a pretty wild story going straight into the SEALs from high school. Would you mind kicking us off there, and then we can zig and zag as we go?
Yeah, sure. So I joined the Navy right out of high school. I had no intentions of joining the military. My whole life, my mom and dad were both in the military. My stepdad was in the they were all in the Navy, I should say. And my dad always kind of encouraged me to join look into joining the military, and I just wasn't interested. It wasn't for me. All my friends in my senior year of high school were all talking about joining the military and wanted to do the buddy program and all this, that, and the third. And I was like, good luck, guys. That's not for me. And then I ended up being the only one that actually joined, and none of
Well,
them did. And then ended up going in the SEAL teams of all places. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, no, I was in Ohio at the time, and I was working at my mom and stepdad's convenience store. They had like a little deli convenience store, and was working at that. I was a roofer, and I was a lifeguard at Kalahari, and teaching surf lessons on the flow rider. So I was doing three different jobs and didn't know what I wanted to do beyond really beyond high school, and I knew I didn't want to go to college. So I was working at the deli one day, and the Navy recruiter happened to walk in and was just caught me on a good day and was like, "Hey, you want to join the Navy?" And I was like, why not? Like, I didn't really like Ohio. And I knew, I didn't want to stay there. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had moved around a lot as a kid. So that was not foreign to me to, move and be somewhere else, try new things, experience stuff. And I was like, I can go maybe see the world for 4 years at the very least, and if I don't like it, I can get out. I'm still 22. It's not the end of the world, and get some life experience, get it, have some security for few years. And so I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And he was like, well, you look like you're in good shape. Do you want to be a SEAL?
straight off the bat, you just
Yeah,
want to join.
and
So can anyone just jump in and join, like try
so
out for the SEALs, or?
I think the recruiters, they get they have like quotas, to that they are trying to get people in, and then it's like I think they get like bonus points if they get special operators or people that attempt to go to these special operating programs, and if they get a contract secured with that. So like anyone can join as long as you score well on the ASVAB, or have a high enough score on that, and then physically you have to pass a PST. So if you do those things and qualify, then you can get a contract to go to Buds, and that's just a contract, basically a contract to attempt
Right.
the
Yeah,
training.
yeah,
But
yeah.
obviously, there's like a 95% failure rate. So,
So how many dudes are in there, like that start off? If there's a 95% failure rate, how many do you think you started with?
oh man, I would say like from the time I started that process, you know, uh, going to boot camp, because in boot camp I was in a special division where half of the recruits in there were going to special pipelines schools and stuff. So I was having to wake up at extra early, like 2 hours earlier than a normal boot camp day. So waking up at like 3 in the morning, 2 hours of PT, and then then starting your normal boot camp day, and and then going from that to Buds Prep, which was 12 weeks of just training, and then PTRRs 2 weeks, Indocs a month, and then you start day one of first phase. So, and that's where like the real attrition rate happens from like first
Well,
phase to 3 weeks of first phase, and then Hell Week starts, and that's the major chopping block. So, but I would say we like from the time I started, there's probably like 300 people that wanted to uh, or that were signed up to go through, and I think we ended up graduating with 42 or something like that.
wild, wild.
Yeah, and then even out of those guys, it's you still have attrition the entire time, and then it doesn't just stop there. In the SEAL teams, like you could be 15 years in, and if you mess some stuff up, you have a bad couple weeks. Hey, sorry, you're
They
done.
chop you. Wild,
Yeah, I've seen it
wild,
multiple
man.
times, and
Wild. Was it fun? Like, did you enjoy the process? Like, was it fun or was it just grueling?
it's the most fun you never want to have. So yeah, that's what they say, and yeah, no. So it was a good time. I really really enjoyed Buds. Sorry, this camera flutters every.
We'll keep it rolling. I can chop it. I can chop the visuals. It's fine.
But yeah, the Buds actually was really fun for me. I understood that this was a game. It's not personal. It's a the instructors are in a role. They're gatekeepers to this community, and their job is to weed out the weak. So it wasn't nothing was shocking to me in
Yeah.
that sense. Once I got there, I mean, I didn't even know what Buds was when I signed up. I didn't know what a SEAL was. I didn't know anything like that. But after I signed up and was like, told my dad like, hey, I'm going to be a SEAL. He's like, what? You don't even. And my dad was a combat cameraman with the SEAL teams, so
Wild.
he knew all about it, obviously. And so, and my mom was with me when the recruiter was there, and so she knew about SEALs. And you know, when the recruiter was like, "Yeah, you look like you want to be a SEAL, or you look like you're in good shape. You want to be a SEAL?" And I was like, "I guess I don't know." And she was like, "Yeah, they're like the rock stars of the military. Like if I saw you in the military, that's what I'd see you being." And I was like, "Okay, I'll be a SEAL."
Yeah. Sweet.
And
Thanks, mom.
yeah, and then so then my dad, was like, you have to go to Buds and like do all that, and I was like, no. He got me the documentary, the 234 documentary, and we watched that together. And it's like a 6 hour documentary on Buds, and a 6 hour documentary on a 8 month
Yeah.
school. That's the hardest military training on the planet. So it's kind of sugar coated,
Yeah. Exactly. For sure.
and but it did give me a much better understanding and idea of like what to like this is what I'm about to face and endure. And so and I think I built it up even more in my head,
Mm.
than it was. Not that it isn't grueling and intense, but um, so for those of you guys, I'm sure. I mean, a lot of people understand and know what buds is nowadays
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
Hell Week. So like, especially like David Goggins and all these guys that seals that are real popular and have told their stories. So like, but at the time, that documentary was like the closest thing that I had ever seen to it or heard about. so, um, and back then uh, there wasn't SEALs out publicly talking about their stories and this and that. So you really didn't know what to expect more than that.
Yeah, totally.
And
Do you know why that was it just because it was more secretive then, and now it's just become more popular to recruit more
no,
people? Like, what's shifted? Do you
I
think?
don't think so. I think it's just like social media, is a thing now, and like Instagram wasn't a thing. YouTube was sort of like a thing, but there was only like a handful of like random videos on there. It wasn't what it is today.
Mm.
So you didn't have access to all these seals, and then yeah, like in the SEAL community, it's like on one hand they say, we're quiet professionals and, it's like supposed to be like a secretive sort of thing, but then everything else is uh, counteractive to that. I mean, there's so many books, there's so many movies, there's so many, yeah, like our training is done on Hotel del Coronado Beach. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we're doing our training in front of people watching. So, and we're running across the road screaming. It's like, so yeah, but we don't exist. Like, like it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. But so
Totally.
anyway,
Can I ask, like, when you're saying like they're trying to weed out the weak, how does that affect the team dynamic towards each other? Are they trying to get you to be more cemented, or are they trying to get you to kind of be like, who survives wins? Like, what is it?
yeah, it's a very, very cutthroat environment.
Right.
And it pays to be a winner, and that is one of the mottos there. And it's at an individual level, but it's also at a team level to an extent. You're in your boat crew, which is six, five, anywhere from 5 to 7 people, depending on kind of just how it falls. And you do races with each other. Everything is kind of a competition amongst everyone in the class.
Mm.
So it's weird. It's like on one hand, like big picture, you're all one unit, and it's like you are class whatever. And then it's kind of you versus the instructors in a way. And then and then it breaks down into boat crews, and then it's boat crews versus boat crews, and then it's individual versus individual at things. So yeah, they definitely encourage you to expose weakness, and it's because it makes sense because it's like we're training. This is the gatekeepers to the SEAL teams, and the SEAL teams we are the people that go on the most dangerous missions. We're going in to get hostages out. We're bringing the fight to the bad guys. We're not waiting to get shot at. We're hunting.
Mm.
So it's like we are these types of people and this type of unit. So you don't want a coward in there. You don't want someone who's going to crumble. You don't want someone who's going to quit. You want someone who's going to go in and do whatever it takes. And if death is the outcome, so be it.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for, is that mentality, because you can't really teach that. You either have that or you don't. And everything can be taught to a SEAL, like the job itself. I could take anyone off the street and teach them how to shoot a gun. I can teach them how to jump out of a plane. I can teach them how to build a bomb. I can teach them how to scuba dive. I can teach them how to clear structure and do CQC, and you know what I mean. Like everything that we do can be taught to anyone, but the reason it's not taught until you go through this is because they want to weed out everyone that doesn't have what they can't teach, and that's heart
Yeah,
and
for sure.
grit and determination and just that sheer will to fight. And so,
Totally.
once you're left with those crop of people that are there and get that, now we invest in training them to be that elite unit. And, that's what really separates us from
Yeah.
every other unit, I would say.
Was there anything in particular that you've like made guys fall
And,
off? Was there a
and then,
particular
and then
activity?
not on, and then on top of that, it's not just, the SEALs, sea, air, land. So it's, we have to be, we're the most diverse and capable military group there is. There's no one even close. And, you'll have guys griping or, well, we're just like SEALs because of that. We're just like SEALs because of that. We're just like SEALs because you'll never hear a SEAL say we're just like them, because we're not.
Right.
And that's just the truth of it. And we're expected. Our standards are just so high from the get go. It's just the only thing we know. Excellence is the only acceptable standard.
Yeah.
And it's like that. Like I said, you can be 15 years in, and if you fuck up too many times, hey, sorry, guess this isn't for you anymore.
Yeah.
And it's I've seen it happen several times. So it never stops. That's why I say you have to earn your trident every day.
Yeah, crazy. Was
So
there anything in particular that were attrition that you saw were like strong attrition points, like any particular activities where guys faded later on, or?
there was lots of things. And that's that's the interesting part about buds. It will find where you have a weakness. It's not so much like, oh, I'm good at running, I'm good at swimming, I'm good at this. But it's like, okay, well, cool. How do you handle the cold? How do you handle being woken up at 2 a.m. and go jumping in the ocean and, getting screamed at and wet and sandy, and then going back to bed and you have to be up in 2 hours for a run, or getting no sleep because of some event, an inspection or whatever. They mess with you mentally. They'll pick people sometimes, and just no matter what you do, it's always wrong. It's
Fuck, that's
always
brutal.
failed. Yeah, and just fuck with you and just see how you respond to that. And or they'll try to pit your whole boat crew against you, and like beat the whole boat crew because of what you're doing. And and try to see how you handle the pressure from the outsiders, or your team coming in on you, or they do things like top 5, bottom 5 rankings, where they basically tell you to out the people you think are the worst, out the people, or who do you think's the best, who do you think's the worst, publicly. Everything is like public shaming. So it's a lot of pressure from all angles.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very like competitive, cutthroat, almost toxic environment.
What was it for you? Was there like one thing that you found hardest?
Running, I would say, because I had never run further than a mile really before.
Right.
I was always a sprinter. I played football, basketball, lacrosse, so it was always just fast, short, sprinting, explosive stuff. And then all of a sudden now I'm running 4 miles in boots and pants on the beach for time. And then every evolution you do is timed, and there's time standards, and you have to not only meet the minimum standard, but you also have to improve every week.
Bro, fuck. As you get more tired, like
Exactly.
throughout the time.
As you get more tired, as you get more broken, you have to improve.
Wild.
And it's the obstacle course, the running, the timed swims, the timed runs, the um, and then you have, hey, we're doing a 10-mile soft sand conditioning run, boots and pants, wet and sandy. And then we're doing log PT for 3 hours with a telephone pole, between you, six of you, and you're wet and sandy. We're going to do surf torture for an hour where you just link arms and lay in the Pacific, which is 52 degrees, and
Yeah.
just
Wet and
get
sandy.
just getting the waves smashed on you. And yeah, it's like, it's just, and then, oh, you fucked up something. So now we get an extra hour long beat down, which is just, you in the push up position for an hour with your feet up on the desk. And we're just going to scream at you and tell you you're fucking turds. And then every 3 minutes we'll tell you to push them out and you got to do 20 push ups and then stay there in the leaning rest.
Wild.
It's, yeah.
Did you lose weight like during that period of time? Did you lose a lot of weight?
You still eat. Yeah, you're eating 3 times a day, but you have to also run a mile to eat and then a mile back. So you're running 6 miles a day just to eat your food, and then again on top of the conditioning runs, on top of the time runs, on top of the 2 mile ocean swims, on top of the conditioning swims, on top of the obstacle course, on top of the log PT, on top of the boats on heads, which these heavy inflatable boats. David Goggins always, who's going to carry the boat?
The boats, baby.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. And those boats are 120 pounds or something, and it's surprising at how uncomfortable that is. Yeah, I remember the first time putting it on my head. I remember thinking, like, this is an inflatable boat. It's not going to be that bad. And I couldn't have been more. And so it's like, and that's why, like, you run, and during Hell Week, that Hell Week starts Sunday afternoon and goes until the following Friday afternoon. You get a 2-hour nap on Wednesday and a 1-hour nap on Thursday. Other than that, you're balls to the wall, going wet and sandy, freezing cold. Wow. Doing 3-hour log PTs throughout it. Every single place you go, you have that boat on your head. You run well over 100 miles during the week. All kinds of games fucking with you, and like you get like bald spots, on your head from the sand, just rubbing on the bottom of the boat on your head, the friction. Well, so it's very intense,
Do you stick together? Like once you've finished and graduated, do you guys just get fully split up into different teams, or how does the
So basically, it's they kind of asked us, like, you get like your dream sheet or whatever, and you don't get to pick your team, but you get to, like, they ask you, like, which coast would you prefer, and then it's depending on the needs of the teams or whatever, they're pretty much going to go right down the middle, and half of you are going to go to the East Coast, half of you are going to go to the West Coast, or depending if we might need more guys on the East Coast, or we might need more guys on the West Coast, whatever the needs are. But if it's like, all right, we can take 20 guys here and 20 guys here, you guys can put in your requests, and if it ends up working out, then good for you. If not, oh well, you're in the military. But so I ended up actually getting orders to Team 5 initially, which was on the West Coast, and then my family was kind of like bummed out, and they were like, oh man, like we wanted you, we were hoping you'd be on the East Coast, because my family's actually from Virginia Beach, and that's where the East Coast SEAL teams are. So and I had been out in San Diego for 2 years during the training and everything. I liked it. It was cool out there, but I was like, all right, I'll come back. And so I ended up switching orders with someone in my class, and he went to 5 and I went to 10.
Well, and then what was your first deployment? Like, do you go off on a mission, or like, what is that?
Yeah, so no, you don't. I mean, it depends on kind of how it works. The teams do like workup cycles. So depending on where they are in their workup cycle, it's like, 6 months of this, 6 months of that, 6 months of this, and then deploy. So depending on where you happen to check in to the team and where they're at. On some guys, some guys check in and go straight to deployment.
That'd be so nuts.
Yeah, and but like SQT is what you do after buds,
Uh huh.
and that's 6 months of SEAL qualification training. So it's basically teaching you, like buds is more about that weeding out process,
Mm.
and that's all first phases. Once you get through first phase and Hell Week and all that, then they start slowly introducing you to the job of a SEAL. Like, then you get dive qualified, and then you get, start working with explosives and shooting and stuff like that. And then after that, now you go into SEAL qualification training to actually get the qualifications to be a SEAL. So then you're going to jump school, and then going to more advanced, things, more advanced diving, like with actual, objectives and that kind of stuff. Uh, and then you're learning like more advanced shooting, CQC, like going through a target and stuff like that, and doing like mock up missions and things like that. So when you leave SQT, technically you should, be ready to check into a SEAL team and do the job of a SEAL. But obviously you're just a fucking new guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so they're gonna, you're at the bottom of the totem pole. You're gonna do all the bitch work, but yeah, some guys, they get to check in and go straight on deployment, which is
Wow.
cool in a way because you get to go right into it. But then, like, you know, other like for me, I checked in while my team was on deployment.
Oh, crazy.
So I was at the team waiting for them to get back because they were at the tail end of their deployment. So they were coming back. So I was there and I was like doing schools and stuff like that to get qualifications. And so you have more like in that instance, like I got to do an entire full workup and go through with my team and train and do all the specific training as a unit together and all that for a year and a half before
Mm.
I deployed.
Wow.
So,
Where did
um,
you go?
so it's like you're really ready to deploy versus like I'm fresh out of buds in SQT and then now I'm jumping straight into a deployment. So it's like kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool on one hand. This is real. I'm doing the job, blah, blah, blah. But you're also like less experienced than
Yeah,
someone.
you're like, I'm so unprepared for this. Like,
Yeah, has now like I've been training for 2 years ready to do the job,
yeah.
versus someone that's just like showing up. Um, so there's pros and cons to it, but and then my
How did
first
you feel? Yeah, how did you feel? Like half excited, half shitting yourself, or like what was the?
I was definitely like anxious in a good way to like get this going. I want to like prove. Plus, you're a new guy until you deploy, and you know.
Yeah,
So when you're a new guy in the SEAL teams, it's worse than any fraternity out there. So and everything we do is extreme. So that hazing included,
yeah,
and
exactly, exactly.
both like fun and shitty stuff, but it is what it is. And So I was definitely ready to go deploy and get that over with and not be a new guy anymore.
Yeah,
Like I was a new guy for 3 Christmases in a row, and I was just like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, when is this going to be over? Because I had checked in right before Christmas as a new guy, so that Christmas, then during the workup that Christmas, and then I was on deployment still during Christmas as a new guy. So I was
right.
like, damn, this is my third still a new guy. But at that point, I had already been on, tons of missions and lots of gunfights and everything like that.
Yeah,
But I'm still a new guy.
labeled.
So
Yeah,
you're still the lowest guy on the totem pole. So I'm still like, we're still getting fucked with and still doing,
that's so funny.
dumb shit. Um, but that's just how it is, But
Were
anyway,
there any particularly good, like hazing things that you remember that were like?
lots of them.
It doesn't have to be horrific, but I mean anything that stood out that you thought that was pretty good.
um, Yeah, I mean, lots of funny stuff. I mean, like, like we had to do skits and stuff like that sometimes, and they would, our older guys would just be like, "All right, hey, we want to see skits. You new guys like assemble, and you have to do skits, and if make us laugh." So they would, so we'd all have to like huddle up in the back. They'd sit out and like, just be drinking and talking shit, having fun, hanging out, and then dance, monkey dance, and we have to come out and come up with some skit and make them laugh, or or if it sucks, then we get punished,
That's so funny.
and
I was
like
imagining.
I
Sorry, go for it.
remember like the first, I mean, checking in, to my SEAL team, uh, right when I got there, and or a couple of us got there, and it was like, all right, mandatory fun night, so everybody's coming out. We're going to this bar and, getting to know each other. And it's like, okay. So we all go out and, we're all kind of scared, like we're the new guys, and these are all like senior experienced SEALs. And, and we've all heard the stories and shit. So we don't know what to expect. And like, we go there, and we're just having like a normal dinner, and we're all kind of just like, yeah, how's it going, da da da, just, and it's seemingly normal, everything's fine, and then it's like, okay, you have a lot of shit to do because you just checked in, and we're new to this area, we got to get all settled in, and not to, there's just a lot of stuff you have to do. So it's like, okay, so can we go home? And it's like, yeah, you guys can go. And like, all right, so we leave, and then it's like 10 o'clock at night, mass text message, get your fucking asses back here, blah blah blah. And it's like, oh shit, so we have to drive back at 10 o'clock at night, and now they've been drinking for a while or whatever, and then it's, as soon as we get to the back to the bar, it's like on the beach, and this is February in Virginia, so
Cold.
it's cold, and the Atlantic is cold, and they're like, go fucking hit the surf, and we're in civilian clothes, and we have to go run out at 10 o'clock at night, and go jump in the ocean, get wet and sandy, and then we go back to the bar, and they're like, you can't come in the bar, you're wet and sandy. So we just have to stay out, like, and just stand out outside, and just in the cold and shivering and wet and sandy, and just waiting for them to get done drinking for the night, and then drive them home. you
That's so
know?
funny.
and
Well,
and they're like telling us about how it's going to be, and da da da, and they're like, it's just setting the tone, like, all right, this is what life as a new guy is going to be like,
yeah. You're like, cool. This is the next 2.5 years for me.
right?
Like,
So it's like, hey, but it never really stops, and then after you're a new guy, then you're just a one platoon wonder,
yeah.
and then after that, you're just a two pump chump. You're just, it's always something. You're always a
Never
new
ends.
guy to someone.
Yeah, it's so funny. I feel like it builds like so much character. Like I lived on like fishing boats, like my first job out of school, and it was just like it was the same thing. You're just like, oh shit, I'm the green guy, and it
Yeah.
was like you get these like long, these long toms, these fish with like these giant jaws, like thrown in your bed, and just like all of the shitty work and all of the tough stuff,
Yeah.
like
The
you know,
hazing,
and
and you
shitting
gotta,
yourself, and you're like shitting yourself, but then like after 6 months, you're like, okay, and you like you kind of you build respect because you got through
yeah, and
the
it's like tradition, and
yeah.
it's a rite of passage. It's earned, and one day you're going to be on the other side of that and doing it, keeping that tradition alive or whatever. And yeah, and some of it's dumb, some of it, but yeah, it's like it's a it's a hierarchy. It's it's respect that's earned. Like, because I've already walked
Mm,
this path that you're trying to walk, and so like I
exactly.
understood it to I understood it for the most part. So um, it didn't really bother me too much, and especially in buds, it really didn't bother me. By the end of my, again, like
Yeah,
three
Lord.
Christmases, and it's like, okay, I've literally gone through an entire enlistment in the Navy, and I've not been nothing but fucked with, you know. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
starting to get old, you know.
That's
Uh,
funny.
but it is what it is again. And honestly, like, you know, when I was in high school, I was a roofer, and uh, this guy Steve Miner that I worked with hazed me way worse than any of my bus instructors or anything. But the dude was fucking. He was so hilarious,
That's so
and
funny.
you know that I have a dark sense of humor, you know. I have, and even if I'm the butt of the joke, if it's funny, it's funny, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, I was 15 when I started roofing on their crew, and he was almost 40, you know, and everyone on the crew was around that age. So I'm definitely like the
yeah.
young guy, you know, and you got to prove yourself, you know, to everybody there, and have thick skin, and you know, so
100%. So we deviated a fair bit. We
yeah. Sorry.
from your first. No, it was good. It was good. The Yeah, your first deployment. You were saying like you were good anxiousness. You'd been doing it for a while. Like, where did you go?
Yeah,
And
so
what was it
we
like?
were going to Afghanistan, you know, and that in the SEAL teams, it's kind of luck of the draw. Sometimes you go, you know, you get to go right where the action is, and then, but they're like, hey, we need, you know, maybe we need a unit over here in Europe, or we need a unit in South America, we need a unit in Asia, we need a unit, you know, like all over to do these certain missions or certain things or whatever. So it's like one might be more action packed than the other, but you know, and it's kind of just luck of the draw where you get to go. And Afghanistan was like the hottest, you know, thing, and that's where we were going. And they were actually like, yeah, you guys, it was, we ended up doing the longest deployment SEAL team history, and
Wow.
as my first deployment. So it was kind of two deployments back to back
So
to
how long is
Afghanistan.
that? Is it a deployment 6 months? So you did a
Yeah,
full year or
yeah. Usually a deployment in the SEAL teams was 6 months.
it's
So
wild,
I did 6 months and then 5 months, like,
crazy,
you know, back to back, and yeah, came home for literally 2 weeks and then went straight back to Afghanistan.
wild.
Yeah, so that was cool. You know, I mean, on one hand, it's like fuck, you know, that's a long time to be deployed and gone.
At the
You
same time, it's
know,
like kind of what you went for, right? It's like to
huh?
be. It's kind of what you went for, isn't it? Like just to be doing the work, be doing the stuff.
Yeah, yeah, but like at the same time, you're just like on in the SEAL teams, you're gone like 300 days a year training. You know,
Right.
so you're just gone a lot. It's very hard on your family. You know, you definitely have to, and or if you have a partner, it's definitely a job that you have to have someone who's like a strong, independent, you know, and not doesn't need you around 24/7. You know what I mean? And because you're just not gonna be. And then on
Were you
top,
single at the time? Like, were you single at the time?
no,
No.
no, mm-mm.
How'd it go?
Good.
Was it
Yeah,
hard? Like, what was fun?
no, it was really good. Yeah, it was really good. Probably, yeah, probably like one of the best times in our relationship.
Great.
But yeah, no. But yeah, it's a long time, and you know, I was excited to go to Afghanistan because it
Mm.
was like where I'm gonna get to really put my skills in action, or you know, get tested, and I wanted to test myself as a warrior, you know, and prove myself as a warrior as well, because again, I was very young. I was getting ready to go to Afghanistan as a Navy SEAL before I could legally go into a bar,
Yeah, crazy.
you know. So that was interesting, you know. Most people at 21 are not in that position,
No.
where I'm in Afghanistan riding a dirt bike at midnight on night vision with a gun on my back, like getting ready to go do you know, take
Yeah,
someone, look
crazy.
for someone, you know what I mean? Like hunting people. And that's not your average 21-year-old's life.
Yeah, no. Was there a moment where maybe when you started shooting or something, like was there a moment where you were like, oh shit, this is real? Like I'm really here and this is happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had a couple, like, it was. So there's a couple of moments like that. Obviously, like one, not knowing, not experiencing something, and not knowing what to expect. It's just you kind of build it up in your head, and it doesn't really always match reality. So when I first got to Afghanistan, it's just like, oh shit, we're here, and okay, and we get off the plane, and it's like there's like tons of people around. There's like shopping and all kinds of fucking bullshit. There's like a TGI Fridays, and I'm like, what the hell? This is weird. Like, I'm expecting to like get off and like in the dirt and just start fighting. I don't know. And so that was, we flew into Kandahar, which was a big major base. And yeah, like I said, there's TGI Fridays. There's people having fucking birthday parties and playing soccer and like shopping and shit. And I'm like, oh, this is weak. And just not what I was expecting. They're like, oh yeah, you guys aren't going here. Like you're going out
Right.
there. And I was like, all right. And then I remember flying on the helicopter the first time to my outpost, and it, we ended up leaving at like 10 o'clock at night, or close to midnight. It was pitch black, and we're flying there on night vision, and we're jocked up and kitted up, in the helicopter. We're not on a mission. We're just going to my outpost, and but I remember, like damn, we left that safe place, that safe base, and now we're flying through the mountains of Afghanistan, and I'm just looking out the helicopter, like, oh shit, I'm really here now.
Yeah,
This,
crazy, man. That's so
this,
wild.
yeah, this looks more like it. This is what I imagined, and 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 I remember just flying around looking, and then all of a sudden the helicopter door gunner just, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm like on the radio, like, what's going on? Where they at? Let's, like we're in the shit right now, and they're like, that was just a test fire, and I'm like, oh, okay. I thought we were about to get into it, and so then we got to our base, and just got there and checked in, and that was my base. Was the furthest major. It was the furthest outpost from any major base in Afghanistan. So it was like as far out as it got, and there was no running water, no nothing. Like we were sleeping on cots in tents, and you know what I mean, hard living, shitting in barrels, and burning our own shit, and no plumbing, no nothing. Like that was
out there. That's
out
wild.
there. And and then having to also do like rotating watches at night because we got attacked. So
Crazy.
so yeah, that was like, okay, now this is, I'm like, I'm in the shit,
Yeah.
and
Crazy.
the place that I was at was only like 100 yards like this way by 100 yards that way, and that was it. It was like being in prison, but worse, probably.
Yeah. What was the point of this particular place that you guys were stationed?
That was just like our outpost, and we were like in charge of all the surrounding like area, that space, like controlling that space, taking out the Taliban in that area, control, and keeping control of that area, like just getting more white space, more footholds.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so so I remember going on my actual first mission, and it was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna infill here, and da da da. So now I'm like, all right, now we're going on an actual mission, like it's about to be on, and I remember leaving at like, we left at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm on the helo, I'm all jacked up, I've got my kit, my gun, night vision, and I'm just like, I watched like 300, the movie, like
You're fired up.
dude, I watched that shit before every op almost. I would put on like the fight scene in 300 where one of the fight scenes where they're just going through and just cutting people up and
Yeah. And goes slow mo, and he's like, the
yeah,
leg
yeah.
flies up. Yeah,
And
I know exactly what
I
you're
would
talking
just
about.
watch that shit and just get fucking hyped like before every single mission.
You're like, I gotta go kick somebody.
Yeah,
Like,
like I'm just like, hey, I'm not fucking around. I'm here.
that's epic.
Now I'm not. This isn't tickle camp. I'm here for war, and
Yeah,
so I was just getting my mind right,
for
and
sure.
so I did that every fucking mission. But yeah, this first mission I went on, again, my first mission, I didn't know what to expect really. And all of our training is so intense, and like all of these like scenarios that we do are kind of over the top. So, and that's for a reason. It's the more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in war type thing, right? So I was expecting like this just chaotic craziness, and I remember we got to our target and touched down and go out of the back of the helicopter, and I'm just like ready to fucking get it and get in my position. And the helicopter's like just kicking up all this brown dirt and shit, and you can't see anything because it's just a cloud of dust. And it's 3 a.m, so like, and then they take off, and I'm just waiting. Where they at? And just waiting. And 5 minutes goes by waiting. 10 minutes go by waiting. And I'm like, nothing. And it's just quiet. And it's just pitch black at night. And 30 minutes go by. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm still like just I'm ready to Spartan kick somebody. And I'm just sitting here in the dark. And then I ended up just sitting there all night until the sun came up. And then the sun comes up, and I see like these little villagers like coming out of their house and shit. And it just wasn't like,
Yeah,
just empty. It wasn't like what we were kind of expecting, And
crazy.
and then yeah, ended up clearing the village and all that stuff. But no action was really had that day. There was like one thing that almost happened, and I was like really itching to get it, and it didn't end up going down. And so it was kind of like a like a letdown in a way. I was like, ah, man, like I thought I was going to be Leonidas today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it
But
doesn't get more real than actually like you're going to war. You know what I mean? So it's like the up and then down must have been so crazy.
yeah. And then I was kind of like disappointed because I was like, well, shit, man. Like I was ready to, I'm ready to prove myself. I'm ready to fucking
Yeah.
do this and do the job. I've been fucking training for years now. And, I've watched 300. I don't even know how many times. So I'm ready to go. And, but then like, and maybe like 3 weeks had gone by of like doing missions, and nothing had I hadn't gotten into a gunfight. Not that nothing had happened, but there wasn't anything like real hectic, and I was just like wanting to fight. And then about like 3 weeks in, my first that's when like my first gunfight happened. And ironically, it happened like damn near like right close to where I did my first mission. And so I like in a way it was kind of like ironic and a good lesson in like complacency, because uh they always say they're like, you can't be complacent. Complacency will get you killed. And like I had already been to this place before, and again it was like nothing had happened. And then we were in this place, and like 30 minutes has gone by or whatever, nothing's happening, and I'm kind of just like a little bit like god damn it, man, like when are we gonna fucking get some, and then all of a sudden RPG and fucking machine guns go off, and it's like, oh shit, and like I'm like all excited, I'm like, oh fuck yeah, like this, here it is, we're getting it. And then it's like, and then all of a sudden my leg was just like trembling, like uncontrollably. And I was like, oh fuck, like this is real. Like my body knows this is fucking real now, And if these bullets hit you, that's not going to be a good day, and you could die right now. And so ended up getting into this big gunfight, and I ended up getting like actually an award for that fight and that mission. So from shit that I did in it, and that was really cool for me, like as a new guy and as like someone who wanted to prove myself to myself too, not just to my peers, but like to myself, that I always felt like I would be that guy that stepped up in a in the time if something went bad, that I would be brave and I would step up and I would be a warrior. But I didn't know for sure, because no one really knows until you're put in that situation. And when bullets are whizzing past you, that's a reality check, like that really hits home, and it really reminds you, or just solidifies that this is not a fucking game. There
Yeah.
is no respawning. There is no coming back. You get fucked up. You're dead. Like, that's it. You're not going home. You're not seeing your family again. You're not, it's no more second chances. So, um, so I was realistic in that. And I was really happy with myself that I did what I thought I would.
Mm,
And, so that was like, made me feel good.
for sure, man. You must be so proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Like in the moment,
But then at the end of the day, I'm still a new guy,
Yeah.
still a new guy for the rest of the deployment. So, and,
Yeah.
got in a lot more gunfights, and was still, you're still a new guy, but you are like, there is a level of respect now between like you and your teammates, because it's like, yeah, I'm a new guy, but I also saved your life,
Mm,
and they know that. And like, so there's just a certain level of respect that comes with that.
yeah. Do you mind? I mean, I don't know if you're able to like explain that situation where you got the award or what actually happened.
Um, I really don't like to talk about like
Yeah. Neither.
details
Yeah.
of
No worries.
like operations and stuff too much. Like I'm good with like broad strokes, but
Yeah, it's totally fine.
yeah, and that's just my style personally. I just don't like this. The SEAL teams in general, they don't really like guys talking about missions and stuff like that. And it's not just me. There's a lot of guys involved, and you know what I mean. So it's like it's just like frowned upon, and like guys don't like it. It's like the guys that are there, they know what happened. They're the only ones that need to know what happened, and they do know, and but and also it's like more of like a humility thing too. It's there are guys out there that have done so much more than I have, overseas, and have fucking killed more people than cancer. You know what I mean? And done extraordinary heroic shit that you'll never ever hear about, and that you'll never read in a book. You'll never see them on TV or anything like that. And those guys are like the quiet professionals. They're like the SEALs that try to really embody everything it is about a SEAL. And I'm not talking shit about guys that choose to go the other way or whatever, because everyone is their own is responsible for their own choices or their own whatever. And like, if you've done X, Y, and Z, and you've earned that, and that's on you if you want to talk about it, or and share that or whatever. It's just something that I know is sort of frowned upon, and kind of glorifying your job. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yep.
did my job, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, so
No, I respect it,
I
man.
just
That's
don't
fine.
I just don't like share that like publicly for the internet, to like with people that have no understanding in any way of what that job or mission entails, and like they just want to be entertained by like people losing their lives. Like these are also real human beings, that are in bad situations. Like our teammates that get fucked up or killed, never get to go home and see their families, and like it's just not something that I choose to like really glorify too much, you know.
Yeah, no,
In a
absolutely.
way.
No, I respect it, and I've never had that experience, so I'm just coming from a
Right. So
perspective of
it's
curiosity
like,
for sure.
and there's plenty of other people out there with lots of other stories that are happily sharing them and stuff. So I just kind of let them tell theirs. And, like I said, people who are close to me, if I it's one thing if I'm in person and like we're talking and I'm sharing something with you or whatever, but like for the internet and the public and all that, I just don't think it's like super
Appropriate.
appropriate,
Yeah, that's fine.
you know.
That's fine. How did you?
War is not like something that I think is like should be glorified or like entertainment type shit. It's literally like hell on earth, and
Yeah,
people being killed and maimed, and you know like, I don't know, like I'll say like that was something that was an interesting experience for me, like when um we did go on a mission and ended up killing a bunch of people, and doing battle damage assessment like on these bodies that are all mangled and just fucking destroyed, and brains and guts and blood everywhere, and bones, and it's like carnage, and you're like, man, I remember just thinking like the first time I came across a lot of that, when I was like, man, these were human beings, like an hour ago, and now they're just piles of matter, and just mush, and I'm sure these people had families and wives, kids, whatever, and that they're never going to see them again, vice versa, and like this is it was just kind of like that could happen to me, or us, like my team, and it's just like, when I was over there, I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, this war is kind of fucking stupid. But now, like my whole entire view on wars in general are very, very much like that. But I remember thinking that during that time, and it was kind of like, even though, at the time I'm like anxious to like get in fights and like, I want to fight the enemy or whatever. But that was like kind of like a humanizing point of it where it's like, man, these were humans, and I'm sure they have families just like I do or whatever. And it's like, and it really just makes you think like, man, what are we, what is all this for? Like, why is all this, necessary? And, or it's like, the human in you is like, this isn't something that should be like, we should be all happy about, it's like, I don't know, just puts you in that, like, you can kind of see yourself like, I'm in the same war this guy's in, so it could be the shoe could be on the other foot. And so yeah, but that also kind of puts you in this kill or be killed mindset too. There's a lot of interesting stuff with it, but and again, that's kind of why I don't like to, another reason why I don't like to talk about like specific things.
yeah, yeah. It's really interesting being, and I really appreciate you sharing that, man. Like being a civilian, like even when I was younger, and we don't have as much like military, obviously in Australia, it's like we don't really talk about it. It's not in our culture as much, but there was like still a desire to like want to go and want to fight at the same time. And then it's like, but then looking at it, you're like, this really seems fucked up. Where do you think that? Do you think that's just innate in us as young men to want to fight? And
Yeah, I
I don't
think
know.
so. And I mean, look at 300. Like it's like just a movie where they're just slaughtering people, and it's like and glorifying it, but it's like a noble cause, you know, and but it's like to protect these your country from these oppressors, and you know, and that's something that like I understand, you know, I understand that, but like and my personal opinion, like I don't think that any of our wars are justified in right now, and or even in the last 20, 30 years
Mm.
there, and it's all like been propagandized and like fed this bullshit narrative of like, you know, yeah, you're doing what Leonidas was doing for his country, you know, but that's not the case, you know, and it's a lot more politicized than that. There's a lot more nefarious things behind it, like the military industrial complex making a fuckload of money on
Mm.
war, and you know, all these politicians that are getting rich off of investing in these companies like Boeing and Raytheon, and you know, that profit a ton from war, and you know, these people that are making all of this money off of war and carnage and people losing their lives, and they'll never, all these people that are making money off it will never ever ever be the ones that are face to face killing each other, and you know, and seeing that shit firsthand, and experiencing it and being in harm's way, and you know, and having to live with that, like, and it's kind of crazy now, like looking back at it, like now that I, you know, I've been out of the teams for 6 years, and like looking back at like everything, you're kind of like, whoa, like that was fucking weird. And yeah, and it's like I was fed this narrative, you know, that we're out here, you know, fighting terrorism and keeping, you know, all these bad guys away from America, and da da da. And it's like, and everyone just got to witness what the hell just happened in Afghanistan. We just, the Taliban kicked their feet up on their Oval Office desk with, you know, their whole crew in there with our weapons, and you know, we just took off. Like, what the fuck did we accomplish in 20
Yeah.
years? Like, now the Taliban, we just left $4 billion worth of night vision, AR-15s, helicopters, like all this shit, and the Taliban is stronger than ever. And it's like, wait, okay, what the fuck was that for? Why did we go there? Why did I risk my life in Afghanistan? You know what I mean? Like IEDs everywhere. Fucking my friends are dead. Lost their eyes, lost their limbs. Like, you know, forever fucking destroyed, have traumatic brain injuries, you know, some of the most intelligent, smartest dudes I've ever met that can't even, you know, have to write everything down on a notepad now because they can't remember shit, you know, for what,
Yeah.
you know? So like, yeah, my whole perspective on wars and war in general has changed, and it's just a different time than than in Greece in 300, you
Mm.
know, where they are literally are defending
Defending it.
their homeland from an invader or whatever. It's
Was
not that way.
was there a tipping moment for you? Like, did something click? Like you
Like I
said, you
said,
only got
there
out
was
6 years
there was
ago.
moments along the way, along that whole deployment, where I was questioning things, you know, and kind of feeling like, but at the same time, your emotions get invoked and play in it because it's kill or be killed, and
Mm.
you know, like where I was, it was like IEDs were a huge threat, and like people stepping on IEDs. I had a guy step on an IED 10 feet in front of me, you know, and it's like that could have been me, you know, and these people are planting these bombs, you know, that are going to kill me potentially, or lose my leg, or kill my teammates, or whatever. Like when that shit happens, you're just like, fuck these people, you know, like because it's kill or be killed, and so you get tied up with emotions in it as well, you know, and it's hard to feel empathy and logic and reason when you're dealing with that or in that situation, right? And but at the same time, while I was there, I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I also realized like the only reason we're fighting them is because we're here, you know? And it's like, what's the objective here, you know? Because it
Fuck,
doesn't
dude, that
seem
is
like
such a trip.
doesn't seem like these people, you know, um, these fucking people that are living in the Stone Age, have no electricity, don't even know where Afghanistan is on a map, are gonna fucking, be able to harm me or anyone I love and care about. And it's like they just don't want America's culture over here fucking shoving down their throats. Like, and I don't understand why, like, we need to shove our culture down everyone's throat. No one wants our, if they don't want our fucking culture, they don't have to have it. It's like we preach about freedom, but it's like, let fucking people do what they want to do, live their life they want to live. And it's like, well, these people are being oppressed. I don't know. Then let them fucking deal with it. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
But I
Was
don't
it?
know. So it was a lot to
I bet, man. It's crazy.
go through and deal with, and that was me at 21.
Yeah, man. Was it a conversation that you guys would have while you were there, like with other people, or you kind of just keep it to yourself? And like, oh, should I be like?
Sometimes, but
Because I mean, it sounds like it's a lot to process. You know what I mean? Like you said, you're there, kill or
yeah,
be killed at the same time, having these
sometimes. But
thoughts. Like,
again, I think it's like when you're in it and you're kind of like, um, when you're kind of like, what's the word?
immersed.
No, yeah, immersed. When you're immersed in that culture and like immersed in that environment, it's kind of like almost becomes sort of like hive minded, where it's like this is how we feel, and like if you kind of, well, what about, like, you don't want to go against the grain, because then it's like, well, this is how we feel, and again, like it's kind of like brainwashing. I felt like I was sort of brainwashed in a way, or fed like a narrative, and that's like what propaganda is. That's and it and it you know if people think that America doesn't use propaganda, they're fucking out of their minds. Like, America absolutely uses propaganda on its own people, for sure. And look at Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, and that was complete bullshit. And they knew that, and that had over 1 million Iraqi people killed, and thousands of Americans killed, and hundreds of thousands injured. Like, it's not, it's just, yeah, it's just all fucked up. And but when you're in it, you don't really
Yeah.
have that perspective. You have the perspective of the view you're in. When you're removed from it and looking out, now you have a different perspective.
Hmm.
So, so yeah, it was. There was bits of like pieces that made me go, huh, because I am a thinker. I'm an individual thinker. I'm not so much of like a hive mind or just go with the crowd. I've never been that way. And I'm also like, in the SEAL teams, there's guys that have wanted to be SEALs their whole lives. And like, are, or people that like looked at the military like, that's something that I want to do. That's something that like, and that kind of shapes their personality as they're growing up. Like, I want to be that soldier. I want to be that guy. I never had that. I didn't even want that. Like, it didn't sound appealing to me at all. I've always been like very non-militant, and like I said, I joined on a whim. And so I was very different than the average like SEAL or whatever, I would say.
Hmm.
My mindset was different. And, and then also like being younger, like
Yeah,
not
for
many
sure.
people get through at 18. Like, that's not a very common thing. So,
Yeah. And
so
what
yeah,
about
just,
once you were kind of unplugged from it? Like you said, there was less, like you're back. Was there something that made you go, "Oh wow, America really is like this," or that like, what's the point of war? Like, was it COVID, or was it like
so
Ukraine, or like
COVID
anything
changed
that really?
everything for me, for sure. But
Right.
I'll back up, because when I got back, so I was like very patriotic. like even though I wasn't like militant and I didn't want to be in the military or anything like that, I was still patriotic because my family was in the military, you know, so I always had like an appreciation for the military, and that was always kind of instilled in me growing up. And you know, so before I deployed, I was like, you know, always patriotic, like thank you for your service, blah blah blah. I was that person or whatever. And then when I deployed and I saw like Kandahar and I saw all these fucking people living these like just cush lives in Afghanistan, like at TGI Fridays having fucking birthday parties, shopping, like, you know, doing all this shit, living better than they fucking do at home. And that's whatever, you know, no fault of theirs, but the it was just different than the idea that I had in my head of like I thought like people were doing like what I was doing, you
Mm.
know, and and then I like remember like being out at that outpost, like living hard as fuck, you know, going on missions, like standing watches at night, getting attacked at our base, not eating fucking good food, like, you know, no showers for months, and you know, and then coming back to these like big cush bases, and this is where like Toby Keith would come and play for the troops, and you know, and it's like everybody's just. And I remember going home on my R&R flight, like when I came home for 2 weeks. I remember like we flew back and flew home on like the on a regular plane with or you know with regular military people, and like I remember flying back and landing, you know, and getting there, and like all the people's families were there with signs like "My hero," la 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 la. And it's just like this big celebration and parade or whatever. And I was just kind of like, what the fuck, like you guys, like, you know, this is bullshit. You know, you don't need this. Is fucking extra. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I get it, and that was just kind of at the time. I was like, you guys haven't done shit, you know, and you're over here getting all this fucking sympathy from people, and you know, like, oh gosh, you were in harm's way, like you know, type shit, and I was like, no, you fucking weren't, like, and quit acting like it, because I didn't act that way, you know, and I really was like, and I didn't ask for care packages, you know, I didn't fucking, I'm like, I'm doing my job, like I don't need all this praise and extra bullshit, and like I signed up for this, I'm doing my fucking job, and I was like really doing it, you know, and it's like these guys aren't doing shit, and they're over here fucking just basking in the fucking glory of it, you know. And so that was like, fuck these guys. And so like after that, and then also coming back from Afghanistan, like after experiencing third world countries and war zones, and like you know, everywhere I stepped it was please don't blow up, please don't blow up, please don't blow up, please don't blow up.
Fuck, dude, I cannot imagine what that would have
And
felt
you
like.
know, I'm talking
Jesus
like
Christ.
every fucking day going out on 20-kilometer patrols, and you know, every fucking step, please don't blow up, please don't blow up, please don't blow up, please don't blow up. You know, that, like, no shit, like that very stressful environment, and like taxing on your mind, you know. And then coming back to America, so one, seeing all these fucking people, you know, uh, all these heroes over here, fucking getting all their praise or whatever, and I was just like, fucking lame. And then seeing all of the people in America and how seemingly ungrateful they are to like you we drive everywhere every day, we don't ever think about, is there a bomb in the road? Like everywhere I walk, I don't think about like, is there a bomb where I'm gonna step, like am I gonna blow up? And you know what I mean, like I have running water, I have a shower, I have fucking like endless amounts of food at my disposal, You know, when I go to the bathroom, when I sit down to shit, I'm not getting my asshole covered in flies. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, this is, and people are just bitching about everything here. And, you know, the lack of awareness and like appreciation and gratitude made me just like fuck America too. Like fuck all these Americans. They don't really care. Most of these people do not give a shit about like the sacrifices that I just had to do or whatever. Could care less. They could care less about their freedom. They could care less about, you know, all this shit. They're all entitled to it. It's not something that, you know, just in the attitudes of most Americans, you know. So it made me very like disgruntled. And I felt like, you know, I couldn't really relate to anybody anymore when I got back from deployment. And I felt like I couldn't really relate to anyone but SEALs, and not even SEALs. More specific to like, because my platoon lived like that. Our other two platoons lived in fucking super nice facilities and had like kick ass food. They had showers. They had like you know active. They were like right off of these major bases, so like they got to experience all of that shit that whole time or whatever. So it was like they didn't even go through like what I went through type shit, you know, or my platoon. And so it was kind of like, and not that I was like hating on them, because I was definitely like jealous of them, you know, like I wanted to be living in those, you know, eating good food and stuff like that. And like we would rotate every once in a while. So guys did get to, you know, kind of share the load. So that wasn't so much like, but it was like I could only really relate to the guys that had been through what I just fucking went through for a year. And, um, but at the same time, like living in such close proximities to these guys, like, you know, in such a stressful environment, and you just kind of like when you get back, it's like I don't want to fucking. I've done 2.5 years of like working, like being in miserable situations together, being stressed out together, being like, you know, frustrated with each other, going through all this shit. And it's like, I kind of just want you to fuck off, you know, and just like, I don't see you for a while. That's fine. You know what I mean? And so it was like isolating in a way. It was like, I don't fucking, the only people I can relate to, I don't even want to talk to, or I don't even want to be around, you know, and no one else, I don't want to be around anyone else either. So it was kind of like, yeah, I was just frustrated, you know.
What did you do? Did you just spend a lot of time by yourself, or you just kind of would?
I drank a lot, you know. I was like drinking a lot, and
Wild.
yeah, that was like probably like the worst version of myself that I was, you know, for a while, and
How did
then
you
like,
how did you switch out of it? Yeah, how did you?
well, like nothing like excited me anymore either, you know. Like it was kind of like, yeah, I just didn't like know what to do, and like and I remember I remember going on a vacation to Belize, and and again I was just like trying to kind of feel alive, you know, because nothing really did it. I went skydiving. I went, you know, like even like sex, nothing like was like I was just like, I'm just here existing, whatever. And I remember going on a vacation to Belize, and I had, you know, Belize has awesome scuba diving, and so I was going to like, I booked a scuba diving trip, and I remember like booking a scuba diving trip, and it was like a shark dive, you know, and I had never dove with like big sharks before,
Yeah.
and I was kind of like, oh fuck, like that's interesting, you know, and I remember going and diving and like being nervous or whatever a little bit, and then like I was in the water, and then the instructor, you know, the guy that was like leading the dive, like tapped his tank, and he does like this sign, like that. That was the signal for sharks,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, oh fuck, I like look around, and then all of a sudden I see this big fucking shark, like 12-foot shark, like just right in front of me, and the water's like super, clear visibility, and this big shark was just like, just doing his thing, like coming towards me, and then all of a sudden it was like right there, and I was just like, I remember my heart just like racing, and I was just like, holy fuck, like this thing could like eat me right now, like I am not the alpha here, like I am not the
Mm.
apex predator here, and it just like made me like, I'm like, man, I could die right now, but I'm like, but that's because I'm alive, and it like kind of just like brought me back and like made me feel like grateful for like life again, and and then like that was like just, yeah, just diving with all these sharks, and I was just like, man, this is fucking cool, and that just kind of like, I felt like kind of woke me up a little bit, and kind of like resparked like my, like, all right, I'm here, like I'm living,
Wild. And
yeah.
then,
And that's funny. I had this like tattoo. If you can see it, I had this like tattoo here,
yeah, sick.
with the sharks, and then I already had that. And then when I got back from that trip, I added this,
The
and
diver. Oh man, that's so epic.
that's me diving with the sharks, because that was like a reminder to me of that. You know,
Yeah, amazing. That's epic. That's
so
epic.
yeah.
And but then you started your. Was that before or after MMA? Like, what was the?
No, so MMA, that after I got back from that, and then, yeah, and then I started doing jujitsu like more seriously. Like I had messed around with it for years with friends and stuff, like just nothing structured.
And you do gi, right?
Gi and no
Is
gi,
gi's your preference? And okay. Oh, yeah.
yeah. So I did I joined a gym, and started like taking it more serious, and started competing in both jujitsu and MMA, and that really kind of like gave me more of like a positive direction to like, focus on my fitness, and because it had weight classes and stuff, and
Mm.
I was like, at that time, like after I got back and I was drinking, and not I wasn't really working out much, I was already like pretty naturally strong. I'd already been through buds, I'm already a fucking seal, it's not like I'm a total slob or something, obviously, but but I didn't focus on my fitness at all. And I didn't focus on my diet. I was eating fucking Taco Bell all the time. Like I would eat like
Gross.
tons of Taco Bell. I love burritos. I love milkshakes. I'd have milkshakes all the time. Chick-fil-A. Like I thought Subway was like eating fresh,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna eat fresh. I'm gonna eat clean today. I'm gonna go to Subway, and because that just wasn't like a huge focus or care of mine. But then like when I started competing and getting real competitive with martial arts, then it was, at the time I was 220, like kind of like softer, and it was like, all right, well. And I remember my first MMA fight, I did it at 205. So I was like, wow, I'm gonna have to cut 15 pounds. And I was like, man, I but I'm like, I'm walking around at 220, so I'm like 205. That's light, and but I'm only 5'10", so like I cut down to that and did the fight, won the fight, whatever, and then I it was like, okay, like I'm gonna take my working out and diet a little more seriously, and then I dropped some weight and like shed some fat, and it was like, oh, once I shredded some fat, then like seeing pictures of myself before, and I was like, oh
Ooh.
shit, I was fucking fat, I was like soft. And then it was like motivating at that point to like, it was like a reality check of like, oh, you thought you were like, I thought I looked good, I thought I was in good shape or whatever, but because I wasn't like, I didn't have a gut, and I wasn't like,
Yeah.
have bitch tits, but I was not, like I am now. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna really like dial it in. Let's see what I can really do with this. And then it was okay. The next weight class is 185. So and I was thinking like, dude, 185. Those dudes are tiny. Like I'll snap those motherfuckers in half. So I was like, let's do it. 185. I can do that, and cut down to 185. And I was like, I'm gonna be
Wild.
a
That's
monster,
crazy.
and did well and became a champion at 185. And then and then it was like, okay, now I'm really getting into martial arts and fighting and competing in jujitsu. And it was like, let's see if I can, really fucking dial it in and like I'll cut weight from like 185 down to 170. And
Really?
yeah, and I did most
Wild,
of
dude.
my fights at 170,
Wild.
but I walked around at like 200, 205, like
That's
lean.
insane.
And I would
Wow.
do these big weight cuts down to 170, and
Fuck.
I would fast with my smash and greens. At the time I made this like concoction of green superfoods, which now my whole company, that's our
Builds off
main
that. Yeah.
product is our smash and greens and smash and reds. But I would fast using this concoction blend of superfoods that I came up with, a non-traditional fast, because I'm still drinking these nutrients and stuff, but I was able to train hard as shit and get these good workouts in while still being on a real restricted calorie deficit. So
Wow.
so
How
yeah.
much did you blow up from, like, let's say you do weight at 170, 170
Okay,
or
so
175?
my last fight, I cut weight, and I also get in the sauna, and like
Yeah.
I do hardcore, you know, dehydration, because when I'm walking around at
205, dude,
200,
that's insane.
205 with a six pack already, and then cutting down to 170. It's
You
like
must just be shredded.
it's
Like,
taking a sponge and just and just wringing it out, and you have to do that through sweating, and
yeah.
so I'm in the sauna for fucking 12 hours doing jumping jacks type shit, but
Dude,
with no
brutal.
water, and like I would get so sunken in and dehydrated that like I could literally feel my eyes moving around in my head when
Oh,
I looked
no.
around.
Crazy.
And it's but I got it down. That was like in the beginning, like but I got it down to kind of like a science, and it would be to where I could cut weight to where I'm only like super dehydrated for a few hours, like right before weigh-ins, and then as soon as the step on the scale, start rehydrating, because it's 24 hours before your fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would do this, and ended up becoming good at it because I did it so many times. I had a lot of fights, and so I once I got my system down or whatever, Anyway, my last fight, I ended up cutting a little bit too much weight on accident, and I was 168 at my weigh-ins, and the next day in the ring I was 203.
That poor guy you were against, like, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
it's funny, man. My opponents have all told me like when they see me at the weigh-ins, and that like I'm like a skeleton, and like I like look like I'm on death's door, and they're like, "Fuck yeah!" Like that dude looks weak and frail, and like I'm gonna just fuck that dude up. And then the next day, I look like a different human being, and like
Jesus
just
Christ, man.
jacked and fucking shredded and full and ready to go. And and if you've seen my fights on YouTube, it's 100 miles an hour. It's
Fucking
all
hell,
gas, no
that's so
brakes.
crazy.
How that all kind of came as a business. So I was fighting while I was active duty, actually, and I was just doing it as a hobby, which is kind of like the theme in my life. I don't really intend to do anything, and then it just kind of end up going the extreme with it. So I was fighting just for fun, like as a hobby, and competing in martial arts as a hobby. Thank you. Uh, and then I, just was really good at it, and I was winning a bunch of jujitsu tournaments. I was, quickly became a champion in the MMA league that I was in, and then I was a 10-time champion, and and I was a champion in multiple weight classes at the same time. So I was a champion at 185 and a champion at 170 at the same time. I was
Savage.
ranked number one on the East Coast in two different weight classes. So I was getting a lot of attention, and then and I didn't like have like social media or anything like that, or because I was in the SEAL teams, I didn't have any way. Like I have all these attention and like people like saying they want to sponsor me and this and that, and I'm like, okay, so I created a social media to like have something to like give back to my sponsors and stuff, and I was just putting my shit out there on social media, and started an Instagram, and that organically kind of just grew, over time, and before I knew it, I had almost 50,000 followers, and I was like just selling my fight T-shirts originally, like as a way to help make money. And then all these people from around the country are like wanting to buy my shirts, and I'm like, what? I don't even know you. Like, buy my shirt? Like, okay. I just made it for like friends and family to go watch the fights, and
Was
then
this Violent Hippie at the time, or this was
no,
something else?
I was the Smashing Frog.
Oh,
That
I
was like
think.
my fighting name. So
Uh,
that I started making the Smashing Frog shirts, and then um, and and then like people wanted to buy them that again didn't know me, and I thought that was weird, and I was like, okay, and it was like like literally like, I guess send me $20 in the mail and I'll send you a T-shirt through the mail. And I literally did that for like the first 30 shirts that like went out, and then I was like, at that
that's
point I was
classic.
like, okay, like I guess people are wanting to fucking buy these that around the country, like, or that follow me on Instagram, like around the world. I remember having a girl from Australia wanted one, and I
Epic.
was like, okay, like that's cool, that's weird, but and I was like, man, like, and I thought it was like really cool to see that, and then obviously like I'm making money on these shirts, so but my fight shirts were like a big green like cartoon frog like in a fighting stance, and it was like people aren't going to wear that all the time. You know what I mean? And I was like, so, and at the time I was saying like mindset is everything. That was like our motto of, or that was like my mantra, And so then I started Massive Apparel, which at the time Massive stood for Mitch Aguiar Smash and Frog. So it was that's what it Massive MASF, and I made it MASF Apparel, and then I made out like a mindset is everything T-shirt because that's like a saying that I said all the time, and it was kind of like my idea was I'll make more like everyday shirts that people can wear like all the time, and I was kind of a T-shirt snob myself, so I just wanted like really high quality, nice T-shirts, and the just simple. And so I made those, and I had a couple other ones like warrior mindset, things that just like resonated with me, and attitude is contagious. Don't be a pussy, that kind of stuff. And but like these first designs I put out, I bought like 30 shirts or whatever, and I just announced it on my social media. It was like, hey, I'm starting a clothing line or whatever, and these are my first shirts, and they sold out like instantly. And I was like, whoa, okay, like that's pretty cool,
Sick.
you know. Like I'm just living paycheck to paycheck, and this is like side money, And I was like, it's really easy. Like I was like, I'll do that again. I
Yeah.
made 60 shirts, and they just boom sold out, and I was like, wow, okay, cool. Um, well, that's sweet. And then like, people are posting that they're wearing them, and supporting, like, oh, go follow Mitch, go support Mitch. Like, he's motivating, he's this, he's that, he's a fighter, he's a SEAL, da, da, da. And like, and then, so my following is just growing more. And then I was like, all right, well, fuck, I might as well make some more shirts, and made shirts. And then it was like and then I remember someone asking me for a lanyard, and I'm like, a lanyard? The fuck is a lanyard? I didn't even know what a lanyard was. And it was like this, like a lanyard, and wanted it to say "mindset is everything" on it. And this is actually an very old lanyard.
Oh, sick.
The mindset is everything,
Dope.
And I was like, I don't know, man. That's kind of weird. Like, I don't even fucking use lanyards. And I like asked my following, I'm like, do you guys use lanyards? And a bunch of them were like, hell yeah, blah, blah, blah.
Hell yeah, I fucking use a lanyard.
I'm like, all right, I guess. So I like looked up like where can I buy, lanyards and get my logo on them or whatever. And then I made them and then they were selling. I was like, this is weird. Okay. And I'm like, what else do you guys want? They're like, shorts, hoodies, hats, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, fuck it. And I just like started making everything. And, we had coffee cups, stickers, fucking lanyards, pens, shirts, hats. Yeah. Everything. Like I was just like making everything because people were buying it. And I was like, and then it was just like more people were sharing it and spreading it. And I was like, wow, okay, cool. And then, and so I was just like, wow, okay, I can make money off of like my following, like, and have a business. And I ended up selling like $150,000 worth of stuff like in the first year. And I was like, okay, this is like legit, I could do this. And that kind of just like made me like interested in pursuing something like that, like more of an entrepreneurial style. And at the time, I was just like, okay, the more followers I have, the bigger my customer base is, potentially, and I can make more money that way. So I need to like focus on making content. And I just didn't have anything to post one day. And I just was like, man, I'll just share my, my greens concoction. And I just shared it and was like, yeah, this is what I drink every morning. And this, and then when I cut weight for my fights, I do like fasting with this. And they're like, what? Like, I'm like getting like all kinds of questions because I have like fucking 6-pack abs and all that. And everyone wants to know like, every little thing you do. And so I'm just getting bombarded with questions and stuff with it. And I didn't have any association with these companies, nothing like that. So I was like, all right, I'll just lay it all out there. And hey, you guys can go get all these products at Vitamin Shop or Amazon or whatever. I don't have any association with them, but have at it. And I was just getting nonstop questions about it. And I made it as idiot proof as I possibly could, laid it out there as simple as I possibly could. And it was still just, people just wanted like you to spoon feed them, And I'm like, okay, like I appreciate that this is like helping people lose weight and stuff. My brother lost 110 pounds using our greens and stuff. So it's like there was multiple people that lost lots and lots of weight using it. So I appreciated that and like wanted to like, but I'm like, this is taking up too much of my time, and I'm not associated with these companies or whatever. So I ended up taking like all these products to a manufacturer and said, can you just take whatever's in all of these and just mix them into one? So it's just like easy. And I can just, give it to people like that. Not thinking anything like, I'm going to make a ton of money on this. It was literally like I'm going to have less questions now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to be less annoying now. And so I did that. And the Smashing Greens, at the time, my name was Smashing Frog. So my following called it the Smashing Greens. So I was like, all right, here's the Smashing Greens. And it's my product. It's all in one scoop. Here you go. Like, and here's like, just make it easier. And then, it just blew up like, and I did like my fasting challenges where I would do 10 days with no food and just like my Smashing Greens. And, at the time I didn't even have Reds, but it was just Smashing Greens at the time. And it was, just, you can fast, you can only have this, you can have black coffee and tea, and you can have a protein shake, a sugar-free protein shake after you work out. And that was it. And, work out every day for 10 days. And people were just like, what the fuck? That's crazy, And I was like, look, if you do that and you lose a minimum of 15 pounds, which you will, because I do it every time I do it and I'm lean already. So if like you're fat and you fucking do this, you're absolutely going to lose 15 pounds minimum in 10 days if you actually do it, And so, of course, you'll get those people that are fucking 260 pounds and, haven't worked out a day in their life, obviously. And, they're, they're sitting there like, yeah, I followed it to a T and I gained 10 pounds. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, there's no way, it's not possible, you know? It's literally physically impossible to do that. And I don't give a shit to call people out on their bullshit. So, but anyway, I did that, and I just made it a public like challenge. Like, hey, if you do that, if you do my 10-day fast and buy my product, do my 10-day fast, post your before picture, your daily weigh-ins on your story so that I see that you're actually fasting and you're actually losing weight every day like you should be. If you do that and then post your final picture side by side so people can see the difference, because you will, there's a huge difference. And just write a review about your experience. And if you do that, I'll give you your money back. I'll give you $100 cash and $100 gift card to my website at the time. And it was just to prove my product work, and I didn't put a cap on it or anything. And at the time I had 70,000 followers, and, and everyone was like my mom saw that post and they're like freaking out. And they were like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you can't afford that. Like, what if everyone does it? And I'm like, I hope everyone does it because it's going to prove that my product works. And then, people are going to buy it. And that's exactly what happened. And it just blew up. I mean,
Nice.
I felt like I hit the lottery because we did like over 100,000 in a week in sales. And it was just like,
yeah, it must have been such a trip. You're just like,
it was
wow,
wild. Dude. It was wild because, like, literally, like, I don't come from money. No one in my family has any money or anything like that. So I literally felt like I just won the lottery. Like, I was like, I'm fucking rich. Holy shit, And but then I quickly realized like how fast $100,000
disappear.
Especially when you have, because and then it was like, well, shit, this is now going to be like a big, like, I guess this is what we're going to be our focus, and this is going to be our company kind of thing. And I need to hire people, and I need to like keep this like momentum going and keep up with this. And I didn't go to business school or anything, so I'm like kind of just on like just using the best of my common sense, and trying to figure it out. So I'm hiring people left and right, like, and they definitely aren't qualified to, for these positions, but it's just like people that I like, hey, you want a job? You need something, you need to help me. Like, I need help now, hurry up. And I'll, here's $20 an hour and here, you do this. So like, it's like, I'm just trying to make them be my hands,
Yeah.
And, yeah, so that was a huge learning experience and curve. And, but yeah, it was quickly like, wow, money can go quick and in a big operation like that. And especially you get people fucking stuff up left and right and the expensive mistakes. Like, so, but luckily, like we were doing well enough to where it's like we could bear all of these learning hurdles. And, and I didn't have any like bank loans. I didn't like get any investors or anything. This was all just like literally from that first selling t-shirts, flipping that money back into my business over and over and over and over. And, and now to this day, we've done like almost 12 million in sales, just, and it's all been through Instagram and like word of mouth and stuff like that. And
does that blow your mind?
It does, to an extent, but it's also like I believe that like we should be at $50 million by now. But I've had major setbacks and hurdles, with COVID and like getting my platform, my Instagram deleted, and I had a huge following. I had 370,000 followers at the time, was verified before it cost $10 on Instagram, and, had a very engaged audience. And because of my views on COVID and the vaccine mandates and, me saying, hey, the vaccine does not stop you from getting COVID. It does not stop you from, passing COVID. Like, because I said that, I got deleted. Yeah. And it's like, obviously I was very outspoken against all of that shit during that time. and which is everything that I said is now widely accepted as
Dude, I
true.
know. And it's then, but you can't. They don't just give you your fucking following back. It's
Yeah,
like
no, and they don't
bananas.
care, and it's just like, nah, fuck you, you're gone, deleted,
Yeah.
and and it's like to this day, I have people follow me, and they're like, whoa, man, I didn't know where you went, blah blah, blah. And it's like, it makes sense. It's like, think about how many people do you follow on Instagram? A couple hundred,
Yeah.
right?
More.
Like if one of those people got their account deleted, you wouldn't fucking know.
Yeah.
Like unless you really like search that person out daily or something like that, or something jogs your memory to go check on their page or something, you just go through your timeline. Like you just, so you don't, there's plenty of people on your timeline or on that you follow, and I guarantee you haven't seen a post from them in years or whatever.
Yeah. Totally.
And you don't even think about it. So it's like, but that was 99, like 95% of my sales came directly from my Instagram audience.
Mm.
So when they deleted that, it fucking
Grinding halt.
it
Yeah.
yeah, it was like, this is a major problem.
Brutal. How did you, I guess, pivot from that? Like, did you have emails or like what was the?
No, like and that's the thing. Like I didn't go to business school. I didn't know, like, I'm doing all this just kind of like with what's working for me. So
Yeah.
I didn't know any of like marketing stuff. That's not like my strong suit. That's not. So it sucks, man. It's been a big hurdle that we're having to still navigate and deal with.
Right.
And manufacturers during COVID, fucking me over big time. My lead times went from 8 weeks to a year and a half for fucking product and stuff, and holding my money, like because I have to put 50% down on these POs, and then not getting product for a year and a half, and just sitting here like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I have to figure it out. And so I've had to, switch manufacturers multiple times to try to get something done, and doing all of this on my own dime. And, while bills are
So
still
what?
going and payroll is still needing paid, and, mortgage, all this stuff, it's like, it's just been very difficult and very, very hard challenge for sure. Definitely the hardest thing and most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. And you've heard about my experience in
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
Crazy.
So,
Crazy.
if that tells you anything. But luckily, like, going through buds, going through Afghanistan, these hardships, this adversity, that's the kind of thing, seeking adversity and enduring it, consciously suffering, it helps build your mental fortitude and toughness, because if you will inevitably face struggles and adversity in life. And if that's your first rodeo, good luck, you know. But
Yeah.
if it's something that you do on the daily, like, whether it's daily discipline, working out, eating right, fasting, these kinds of things, like running, setting little challenges for yourself, pushing yourself, seeking adversity, and consciously suffering. It's a choice, and it's like anything, like mental toughness is perishable. You're not just going to be fucking tough, I was tough 20 years ago. I'm still tough today. It doesn't fucking work like that,
Mm.
you know. And there's SEALs, in that have that Uncle Rico fucking mindset. Back in '86, back in '86, it put me in state. We would take state. But it's like, yeah, back in buds or back in this deployment, fucking 15 years ago, like. But yeah, but look at you now. You look like shit, and you're
Yeah.
not fucking tough anymore. And you could, if you went through that scenario today, you'd fucking
Wouldn't
crumble.
make it. Yeah.
And it's perishable, just like anything is.
Yeah.
So
And what's the focus, just as we wrap up? Like, what's the focus for you guys in the coming 12 months with the business? And like, is it to get more attention back on it? Like, what's the plan and how can
yeah,
people support
yeah,
you?
no. I am just trying to focus on my own personal like fitness. I want to get, that's something that I'm in control of. I'm not in control of like the Instagram overlords, like I can't control that. Sometimes I can't control my manufacturers and their lead times or this and that. but something I can control is my own fitness and my own diet and my own discipline. So like I want to personally just get on an elite level of fitness and be an example, and try to rebuild my following as much as I can, do as many podcasts as I can, do as many events, and just put myself out there a bunch and try to get just rebuild and get people turned on to buying the smashing greens and the smashing
Smashing
reds
Reds,
and
baby.
focusing on their nutrition, and wanting to just be the example. Like you could do this too. I'm not someone special. I'm just someone who fucking puts their mind to things and attacks it ruthlessly. And you could too, relentlessly. Like, and um so that's my goal, and that's what got us to the dance in the first place. So just got to rebuild and keep going, and hopefully get back on track, regain our momentum, and then just keep going from there, and take shit to the next level.
Amazing, man. Perfect. Great place to wrap it up. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Dude, that was clutch. Thank you so